A lot of people have asked me if I would talk about the gods and the goddesses of ancient Egypt. And today, we're going to do just that. My name is QueenAusetHeru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to anyone, everyone who might like it too. Please drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And let's see, if you'd like to get a reading done, please hit me up on social media or on my email, and I would love to give you a reading. Underneath this video, you'll also find my Patreon and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's get started. So let me explain, right? Egypt today is, I think, under Islamic influence. But Egypt today is not the same Egypt of yesterday. At the beginning of Egypt's civilization, it was called Kemet. And the gods and the goddesses were known as the Metu Neter. And they had one god, that's Ra, and Ra had many children. So the Metu Neter, which we now refer to as the gods and goddesses, are really the children of God, the children of Ra. So there's many of them. There's many of them. And most of us who are, priestesses or priests of, this particular spiritual system, the ancient Egyptian, the ancient Kemetic, I should call it as it is because I don't want to confuse the two. But the people of that time period called their spiritual system Mayat. So those of us who are priests and priestesses in modern times of Mayat are familiar with the main gods and goddesses, but not the 100 or 200 of them. There was a lot. And basically, each of the Metu Neter had a different principle or something they were in charge of. For example, Auset is the mothering energy, okay? Heru is what we would refer to as like the goddess of love, that kind of energy. Now, they didn't use those terms. They used Metu Neter, but now that we're talking about it and comparing it to other cultures, that's basically, every culture has things like that. Like, for example, the Roman has gods and goddesses. The Greek has gods and goddesses. The Yoruba have Orisha. The Orisha aren't gods and goddesses, but very similar concept. The Catholics have the saints. They're not gods and goddesses, but very similar concept. So everybody has this kind of concept, So I'm going to talk about Goddess Auset today. Now, Goddess Auset, remember we said the daughter of Ra. And she's actually not his only daughter, but one of his more important daughters, in the sense that Auset is at the beginning of all of like the major stories. She's in like all the major stories, And there's a good reason for that, because it's said that out of all of Ra's children, she was the one who was the most intelligent, the most magical. And she was able to trick Ra into giving her his real name. The Egyptians believed that people had a secret name, and Ra had a secret name. And she was able to trick Ra, which I'm like, you got to be real crafty to trick Ra, So in the mythology, she tricks Ra into giving her his name, and she becomes like the queen of everything. She's like the head daughter, So you hear a lot about Auset. Auset is often referred to as Isis as well, because after the people who inhabited that part of the world, that Kemet, left. They either died off. There was lots of, Egypt went through a lot. That part of the world went through a lot, and still goes through a lot. But during that time period, there was invasions, there was famine, there was so much going on that the people of Kemet ended up leaving. The ones that were left, and the people that are there now are not the same people. That's a whole different group of people who came down from the east and from the west and from the north and other places later. It's not the Kemet that we're talking about right now. Totally different group of people. That's why the spiritual system, the culture, everything is different. So anyway, so when you hear the old stories and the old mythologies, you always hear Auset. And like I said, that's how she got the name Isis, was from the ones who came later. The ones who took over Egypt later. So that was her other name. So I always call her Auset because that's what the people who worshipped her would have known her as. Now, what's the deal with Auset? Let me tell you a little story about Auset. So after she tricked her father into giving her name, giving him, giving her his name, another major story you will hear about her, you will hear about her love story with Assar. Assar was her brother. Back then, for some reason, they had a tendency, I think it's like, to keep the bloodlines pure or something, but they had a tendency to marry within the family. So it was very common for the pharaohs and the pharaohs of Egypt to do the same thing. So this wasn't just something that she did. But anyway, she fell in love with her brother, and they were the ones who were the rulers, of Egypt. So anyway, according to the mythology, they were doing a pretty damn good job. As you can imagine, they were righteous, they were giving out truth, they were doing what they had to do. And another brother, his name is Set, was jealous of their union, jealous of Assar, his brother, just jealous. So Set managed to kill Assar by tricking him. A lot of trickery went on during this time. So he tricked him and was able to kill him. Okay, fine. Auset, being the mistress of magic, found him and resurrected him and got pregnant by him. And Set found him again, killed him again, and dismembered him this time. So she was unable to put him back together. But she was pregnant with Heru. So she went on the run. She had to hide from Set because he was trying to kill her and Heru at this point. So she had to hide from Set until Heru came of age. And this is why a lot of times you will hear people say that Auset is one of the patrons of single mothers, because she had to, of course, raise Heru by herself on the run while his father was in the underworld. So she did that until Heru came of age. When Heru came of age, whatever that is in Egyptian culture, I guess it would have been, I don't know, anywhere from 14 up, I guess. Every culture does it different. But whatever that age was, when he came of age, she came out of hiding and he started to fight his uncle Set. And at the end of the mythology, because this takes on many different stories, many different battles, but at the end of the mythology, he is able to subdue his uncle and take over as the ruler of Egypt. And one of the things they always tell us about this particular mythology is that Set is not supposed to be evil. Set is the shadow of yourself. It's your instincts, it's your urges, it's your shadow, So what Heru was really conquering was his own shadow. He was conquering his own inner struggles, So it's very interesting the way that the Egyptians told the mythologies. All mythologies are meant to tell a story, to teach you something. So it's very interesting when you read them. So why do I work with Goddess Auset? I believe that gods and goddesses, if they want to work with you, because I think that we all have different ways of worshiping. This is one of the things I've seen in every spiritual system I've read about. They all mention that we all have different ways of worshiping. So for those of us who are called by gods and goddesses, I feel like that's what they do. They call you. They come to you. They tell you, I want to work with you. And the way that they do that is by seeing them, by hearing about them, by seeing their symbols or their animals, different things like that. Their colors, or the god or goddess themselves coming to you in a dream or in a vision. And this is how I got Auset. I'll tell you the story. When I first decided I wanted to get into spirituality, it was in my 20s. I was like 22. I had found Mayat. I loved it. I had been looking for a spiritual system for a long time, but I put it off initiating because I didn't feel like I was ready. I didn't feel like I was good enough. And I didn't feel like I was ready to stop fucking up. Okay? I felt as though if you were going to be a priestess, you had to at least try not to fuck up. Okay? And I wasn't at that point in my development yet. I still wanted to act a fool. I still wanted to be a wild-ass young Aquarius. That Oshun energy was on me. That Shango energy was on me. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a very sensual, sexual, playful, happy kind of energy. And I didn't really want to be like, well, praying and meditating all the time. Okay. And I knew that's where it was going to take me, which it has, and it's been awesome. But I wasn't ready at that moment. So I had the books. I had the books that I used for initiation. And I had them. And I just was like, when I'm ready, I'm going to do this. So after the Voldemort debacle, for those of you who know about that situation, I was dating this person that was a narcissist, sociopath, and I finally managed to escape this person, and I was like, I need to do something. I need to do something for my spirit, my self-love. I need to do something. And I decided to heal, to help me heal. I was going to go on a spiritual journey, and I decided that spiritual journey would be priestess training. So after I walked away from Voldemort, one night, I was laying in my room, going through a dark night of the soul, extremely depressed, and I went to sleep, and I just was feeling hopeless. Was feeling like giving up. I was just feeling like, everything I do is not working, and really what it was is that I wasn't doing the right thing. That's what it really was. But in my dramatic mind, that translated to everything I'm not doing. It's just not working. So I went to sleep that night, and Goddess Auset came to me. I dreamt that I was at the bottom of the ocean, the very bottom. And I had stopped struggling and blah, blah, blah. I just let go. I just like, fuck it. I just let go. My whole body went limp in the dream, and I was just there, and I was drowning. My hair was, floating, and I was just drowning, and I had just given up. And all of a sudden, as I was drowning, I saw this little light, and it got huge. And I looked up, and I saw this woman, black woman, thick, beautiful face, makeup, all this locks, long locks, just hair all in the water. And it was Auset. And she looked me dead in my eye, and she grabbed me by my shirt and said, "You're coming with me," and yanked me out of the water. So when I woke up, I was like, that was weird. That was a strange dream, because it was unlike any other dream I've ever had. Who is that woman? I didn't know who she was at that time. I had the books, but I had never really read them or seen pictures of her. And I started to say, who is that? And I Googled it and looked it up in my books and found out that it was Auset. And right then and there, I had an altar already that I was barely using. I was just starting to build it, but it was in the back room, and I dragged my altar into my bedroom. And I was like, from now on, my spirituality is the seat of my life. Everything else, this is the foundation. Everything else will be built upon my yacht. So whether I do good or I do bad, whatever I do, I'm going to build it upon this foundation and do the best I can. And that was when I decided to initiate under Goddess Auset. And that I was ready. That whatever I was doing, that's enough, I'm ready. And I did it. So let me tell you a little bit about Auset. People often ask me, like, how do we work with her, things like that. First of all, if you know anything about the Yoruba tradition, Yin and Ya is the mothering principle, the Orisha, the mothering Orisha of the Yoruba pantheon, spiritual system. And Yin and Ya, they say in the book, corresponds to Auset. So if you're familiar with Auset, if you're familiar with Yin and Ya, it's a similar energy. Because remember, all of these, all these deities cropped up around the same parts of time in different parts of the world. So you'll see a lot of similarities and overlap. So one of the things that we do is the planet, every god or goddess has a planet associated with them. And for Auset, it's the moon. The moon is her association. Ra is the sun. And then the other ones go to the different planets, go to different gods and goddesses. Auset's day is Monday. So for those of us who leave offerings for Auset, we generally would do it on Mondays. Her color is sea blue. Yemenya's color is blue too. So you'll often see depictions of Auset and Yemenya in blue. Mostly sea blue, but you'll see other blues too. Her number is 7. So if you give her offerings, you might give her, let's say for example, 7 watermelon, or 7 candles, you give it to her in 7s. And the gems are pearls and moonstone. I personally prefer the moonstone, but either one. So if you have a beautiful altar, you could put pearls and moonstones on it. Or anything from the sea, because this energy is supposed to be not just the moon, but a sea energy as well. And it says here that there are oils and herbs associated with Auset. So spearmint, the one I use the most is spearmint, but also jasmine is another one that is common. And let me see. Yep, that's the last part. So those are some of the things, that we use. There's also depictions of Auset. Like I have a little statue of Auset, and I got a big one too. I got like 2 big ones now that I think about it, and they go on the altar as well. So in general, when I work with Auset, it depends on what I'm doing. I can just work with her by standing at my altar and lighting a candle and talking to her. I can work with her by doing a meditation. I have a lot of guided meditations specifically for different gods and goddesses. So yeah, I mean, that kind of thing. I can do a meditation. I can do a ritual. It just depends on what's going on. A very simple ritual would be to get a bowl of water and put jasmine flowers in it and a candle in front of it and pray over the water and use it to anoint myself under the full moon. Very simple, just calling in her energy and giving her love. Whenever I ask Auset for anything, I always give her gifts. Gifts of little statues or crystals or flowers, or sometimes something that they ask for. Gods and goddesses will tell you what they want. They'll ask you for it. They'll show you. I mean, it's very many ways they show you what they want. So like I said, I believe that they come to you, and if you choose to work with them, initiate with them or work with them, because you don't have to initiate, you can just work with them sometimes. It's really up to your level of dedication. Some people choose to be a devotee of a particular god or goddess, and some people don't. And some people don't work with deities at all. It's really up to you. But for those of us who are into this kind of thing, it's really a beautiful relationship. And they're all different. Like your relationship with every god or goddess, or in this case, every Metu Neter, will be different. My relationship with Auset is nothing like my relationship with Het Heru. It's different energies. What they like is different. What you do with them is different. All that energy is different. It's different than my relationship with Hoodie, for example, or Cashapp, for example. It's all kinds of different relationships and energies. And when I call them and talk to them, it's different times. But Auset's relationship with me is particularly special because I am her priestess directly. So the others I may work with, but she is my mother. And in most traditions, it depends on, who you talk to. People have a mother and a father spirit. I work mostly with Auset, my mother spirit, and Heru, her son, is my father spirit. So if I need protection or to deal with masculine energy of my own or someone else's, I can tap into Heru. But next time we talk, I'll tell you all about Lord Heru. Okay, so that's Goddess Auset, and that's some of the things that I do with her. Please let me know if you have questions in the comments section. Do you work with any deities? What do you do with yours? That might be interesting. Let's get a powwow going on, and if you guys like this, please let me know, because I will tell you about other gods and goddesses that I've worked with. I've worked with gods and goddesses who aren't even in the Metu Neter. Like I have Ganesha right here from the Hindu tradition, and Ganesha came to me. I didn't even know who Ganesha was. So I got a lot of them I didn't know who they were. I just saw them, and then I went to Google, or I went to books, or I just kept looking till I figured out what the associations were, because a lot of these are universal. All right, guys, let's see. I should have, and I do, I have some positive comments. Let's go. Here's the first one. This one is from Christina Young 6535. Christina said, always love my Aquarius, but I'm letting go. And it's very painful, but has to be done. Forever in my heart, though. I'm very sorry that happened to you. I'm very sorry when anybody gets their heart hurt. And I hope that things work out. Whatever your endeavor is. And I hope that you heal. It's not always easy to heal from hurt. All right. Our next one comes from Andrea Boyd 3942. Hi, Andrea. Andrea has a question for us. Queen, I have a stupid question. There are no stupid questions unless it's one I've already answered. But this one is not. Let's say I tell a lie to someone. Example, my gran lost her purse. Then a few days passes by and gran really loses her purse. Did that happen as my fault because I was mean and told a lie? Or did it happen because it just happened? Well, that's a very interesting question because I feel like it depends on the circumstances. When I was a young girl, I was like 13 or 14, I told a lie that one of my grandparents had passed over. 2 months later, the same grandparent passed over. Okay? And the thing that was weird about it was my teacher said, didn't your grand already pass over? Because I gave him a note, a forged note that I wrote saying that my grandmother had passed over and I had to go to the funeral. And that's why I wasn't in school. And then 2 months later, that actual grand passes over. Now, did I kill gran? I don't think so, because gran was already old, already sickly, already passing over. But did I call that energy at that moment into existence? Some would say yes. Now, if gran had been 100% healthy and passed over, that would have been a whole different, I would have been really scared at that point. But because she was already old, already having complications, I didn't even think about it until after, when my teacher said, didn't your grand already die? And I was like, oh, that's the other side of the family. And my teacher was like, oh, okay, it kept on going, So the question then becomes, in certain situations, is that the case? Like in this one, it's very specific. She said that she lied and said gran lost her pocketbook, and then gran lost her pocketbook. So my question becomes, did gran have a tendency to lose her pocketbook? Because it could have just been a coincidence, because maybe gran is clumsy. Maybe gran is always losing her pocketbook, or maybe, like you said, you spoke that into existence, because there are self-fulfilling prophecies and energy does work like that. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think sometimes, yes, it very much is us speaking things into existence. I knew somebody from the time I met them was so afraid they were going to be a diabetic. Okay? This person had no reason to believe this. They didn't have this history in their family. They saw a documentary on it once and it scared the crap out of them. Okay? And we were like 15 at the time and we were kids. And this person was on it. And lo and behold, in our 30s, this person found out that they were diabetic. And I kept thinking to myself, they spoke that into existence because they didn't have a history of it, but they were just so afraid that it was going to happen that it happened. So I really do believe, Andrea, that these things, it is a case-by-case basis. I do believe that person spoke that diabetes into, existence. I don't believe I killed grandma because she was already sick. So I think it's a case-by-case basis of what it actually is. And like I said, sometimes we see these self-fulfilling prophecies. So I think you definitely have to look at each one on the one, But it is possible. We do speak things into existence. That's why they call them spells, because you speak it into existence. So you got to be very careful what you say. If you're going to tell lies, don't kill nobody off. Okay? Be very careful with what you say because it just might happen. All right, guys, you come back soon because I got a lot more to say. See you later.